Woo!
The 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series is upon us. We're here today to get you all set for what promises to be another record-breaking season. Our 2023 schedule is loaded with legendary lakes, and the best anglers in the world will be looking to claim the big wins and the biggest bass. Today we're going to look forward to all the anglers and the locations that will fuel our story in 2023. It's a season that promises all of the ups and downs and historic moments we always love. This is the 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series Preview Show. Hello and welcome to the Bassmaster Studios, sponsored by Marathon. I'm Tommy Sanders, here with Ronnie Moore. And I guess, Ronnie, this is sort of the equivalent to a Major League Baseball hot stove session, you know, where you sit around the fire in the dead of winter, yet you're excited about what's going to happen when the season opens. You're looking forward to that and getting all worked up about it. And that's what we have for you today. We're going to look ahead to our 2023 season for everything Bassmaster, focusing especially on the Bassmaster Elite Series season ahead of us. 9 events. And, of course, we're going to start it down where the bass fishing really starts in America, for obvious reasons, the state of Florida.
Yeah, and Tommy, I'm a fishing fan no matter where we go. I love all the venues. They all have a different thing, whether they catch 100 pounds there or whether it's tough. But I'm really looking forward to the start of the 2023 season because it's kind of going into the time vault. We're going to 3 places to kick off our season we haven't been to in a long time. Lake Murray, Lake Seminole, and starting off at Lake Okeechobee. It's been over 6 years at minimum for all 3 of those destinations, almost 9 and over a decade for another one of them. So 3 different places that we've had in fishing legend and lore over the years, and all dynamic places and all have the ability, time of year wise, to really be good fishing tournaments.
And like you say, old places, new places as well, and places we haven't visited in a long time. It makes a great mix that ties together several different parts of the country. A very impressive 9-event schedule.
Why don't we start our season off on a legendary body of water, Lake Okeechobee in South Florida. It's going to be one to watch for sure. A little bit of a time portal as well for the second event, Lake Seminole. About a decade since we've been to this Florida-Georgia fishery. Then we go to the state of South Carolina for back-to-back events, one of those being Lake Murray, a blueback herring lake. Then we go to Santee Cooper, a place that we saw break 100 pounds in 2022. Then stop number 5 for our mid-portion of the season, Lay Lake in Alabama on the Coosa River. Then we'll go down to Texas for the Sabine River, a tough fishery, but a very diverse one as well. Then we'll have our smallmouth swing for the last 3 events. Lake St. Clair in Michigan will be stop number 7. Stop number 8, Lake Champlain in upstate New York. We'll stay in that same state for the St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario.
A great set of lakes we have coming in 2023, Ronnie, but that's only half the story. The other half are the world's best anglers, all vying for the tournament wins and the Angler of the Year title. Who are the anglers we need to be watching from the start? The ones who are always seemingly a threat to win, always part of the conversation for Angler of the Year.
Well, Tommy, why don't you just put me on the spot for my Progressive Angler of the Year picks? I'll do my best here, but I'm going to pick 4 anglers, one of them being Brandon Palaniuk, our 2022 Progressive Angler of the Year winner. There's really no other reason that you could say it. He is so consistent. He's won 2 of these titles. Only 12 anglers in the world have done that feat. He could repeat in 2023. The schedule sets up very well for him. Another guy I'm thinking about, Patrick Walters. He's on my short list. He's one of the young studs of the sport, a rising star. He's won Bassmaster Elite Series events. He's won Bassmaster Opens. I'm really thinking about Walters because the schedule sets up very well. He's had a fault at smallmouth events, but I think he has corrected that over the last season or 2. Another guy that's a young one that took home an Elite Series title in 2022, Drew Cook. With 4 events being around the spawn, 2 of them in the state of Florida and Georgia, 2 of them in South Carolina, he is one of the, if not the best sight fishermen in the world, and especially on the Bassmaster Elite Series. I'll keep an eye early in the season for Drew Cook. Then we get to the 4th angler, Seth Feider. He won in 2021, almost had one of the best seasons of all time. I think that he could relive some magic. He really didn't fall off the pace last year. Brandon Palaniuk just raised his level to another degree. Feider could regain some of that power, especially with the way the schedule sets up with 3 smallmouth events.
A loaded field of anglers and some of the best bass lakes in our country. We really do have a lot to look forward to in the quickly approaching 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series. We've still got plenty more to preview today, though. Stick with us after the break as we continue our look ahead to 2023. We'll be right back.
I got her! Look at that!
Welcome back to the 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series preview show, where today we are taking a look at the year ahead and all the anglers and lakes that will come into play. Our Our 2023 schedule is one that's set to test our anglers all across the country in different conditions, but these guys are the best in the world. You know they'll figure it out every time. Right now, we're ready to break down our 9 stops upcoming on our Elite Series schedule. And Ronnie Moore, we get started at a legendary lake way down in Florida.
So we're going to start off the year in February, Lake Okeechobee, such a good place, like you said, for bass fishing history, and a time of year where they're going to be into the spawn. Even if there's a cold front, they would have already had a few waves of spawn, and those big ones should be in and about different patterns. You could probably catch some sight fishing, probably catch some flipping like we've seen in the past, and maybe some topwater or moving baits as well. So Okeechobee's the first stop of the season.
Giant, it's just tons of vegetation of all kinds, and really a place that can really be affected by weather and wind direction. So you can have one day be very different from another one.
Yeah, and we're going to be taking off, I believe, from the top of the lake. So when you think about that, you've got the whole bowl everywhere that you can choose from. You might have to run the rim canal all the way around if you want to avoid that weather, or you can stay close. And I mean, honestly, Tommy, you can put the trolling motor down and take off and fish forever and never get to the entire lake. That's how big it is.
Another place that big bass enthusiasts have targeted for 100 years or more is right on the border between Georgia and Florida, and that is Lake Seminole. The Chattahoochee and the Flint Rivers coming together there. Just a classic bass fishing place.
And it's been a really special place, especially this time of the year. When it is colder and some of those Florida lakes get a little temperamental, Seminole is a place that you can fish a little bit deeper at times. There's a lot of grass offshore that's plentiful there. Spring Creek regions, you always have wing gates. You always think about that. And like you said, it's got 3 states represented. Part of it's in Georgia, the most of it is. The western side is in Alabama, and then obviously near the dam is the Florida border and whatnot. So Seminole, a place we haven't been to since 2014, where we saw giant weights despite how cold it was. We saw moving bait bites and fish on bed.
97 plus to win that one right there. Really looking forward to Seminole. Those dates for the Florida swing: Okeechobee February 16th through the 19th, Seminole February 23rd through the 26th. And then we head to another state where we've spent a lot of time in the past few years, but one of our destinations is going to be one we haven't been to for a long time.
Yeah, we're going to take a few weeks and we're going to go to the Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville, and then a few weeks after that we will spend 2 tournaments in the state of South Carolina, and we're going to go over to Santee Cooper and to Lake Murray. Those 2 places back to back will be special.
Yeah, Lake Murray, South Carolina, our buddy Davey Heights, home lake, along with Santee Cooper.
Exactly.
He kind of splits his allegiances between the 2. I just want to mention real quick that Santee Cooper is going to come up the 27th through the 30th, and Lake Murray going to be the 20th through the 23rd. But Lake Murray, very unique lake, old mature lake built back in the 1930s. It is a herring lake too, so that makes it very interesting.
Yes, and we often see a lot of spotted bass and stuff play with blueback herring lakes, but a lot of Lake Murray's fish are largemouth. They orient there off the cane and those offshore brush piles where the blueback herring like to get. But it's not going to be summertime, it's going to be spring, so you're going to see guys going up there maybe with some top water, definitely some spawning action possibly going on. You're going to maybe have a shad spawn depending on how our springs go in the Carolinas, what it'll be like. But Lake Murray, a place that will kind of reveal a lot of old memories from that place from the early stages of the Elite Series, but we haven't been there in quite a while. 2011, I believe, the last time. We obviously know all about Santee Cooper. We've had it 2 or 3 times in the last 3 seasons on the Bassmaster Elite Series, but boy, Tommy, that place will not disappoint in the month of April.
Lake Marion, Lake Moultrie make up the 2 lakes there, and of course Lake Marion, the largest lake in South Carolina. Back in the day, 115 pounds. Preston Clark for 4 days of fishing and busted the century mark there last year when we were there. This year, yeah.
When you go to Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie that make up Santee Cooper lakes, you can really pick your poison. You can go fish offshore, you can fish ultra shallow if you want, you can go brush pile fish, and obviously we've seen it in the fall and the spring, and we also have all those historic memories. So the Santee Cooper Lakes is going to be a great stop on the Bassmaster Elite Series.
The Santee Cooper Lake's always a great place to see the big fish hit the scales, and Ronnie will be there at a great time this year, a much anticipated stop as we approach the halfway mark of the 2023 season. There's still 5 more stops left on our schedule, though. Stick with us after the break as we look at the second half of the year that promises big bass. We'll be right back.
Yes! Woohoo! Oh, baby!
Oh, there's one down right there. Gosh, those are the healthy ones.
Welcome back to the 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series preview show, where we are now halfway through our look ahead at the schedule, getting underway in just a few weeks. It's a schedule that starts down in Florida and Georgia and moves up to South Carolina in the early stages. But Ronnie, the back half of our schedule moves west, then north to some truly legendary fisheries where we expect to see some big bags of bass.
Yeah, Lake is a place that we do know from the classic memories and most recently through college series and high school series memories. And I believe the Opens has been on the Coosa River plenty of times as well.
Sure.
Lake, though, a place that'll be, I believe it's the first stop for the Bassmaster Elite Series ever there. You'll have the swim jig ability in May. It's in the month of May, so swim jig ability on the grass. And we'll also maybe see some people head up to the tailwaters from the Logan Martin Dam, all of that current, the different boulders that you can fish, all those eddies that you can find up and down the river, or you can stay in the lake and fish it like a generic, normal lake.
We love to see people catching those Coosa River spots. The current is key. Lake will be a great stop for the Bassmaster Elite Series. Again, that's May 11th through the 14th, and then we go into the month of June for our next stop, a very popular stop. Huge crowds, Orange, Texas, the Sabine River, always challenging, always some twists and turns that keep your attention.
And we've been there multiple times, so people can think, oh, it's going to be same old Sabine River. But every single time we go there, Tommy, it's one in a different area by a different angler doing something slightly different than we've seen before. We've seen Houston, those long runs almost pay off every single time, but maybe it'll be the time it breaks through and does it. Maybe we could see a return to some of those other bayous that have often risen up and fallen back in times. And then also north of the takeoff. I mean, the last time we were here in June, Greg Hackney took the title in 2018. We obviously know Jason Christie, the most recent winner on the Sabine River, also did it doing something a little different, going to a far extreme, not to the west, but to the north. So we will see how it plays out in the month of June at the Sabine River.
Well, way down there, Sabine River filters into or disseminates into the Gulf of Mexico. We make a big turnaround, head north for our northern swing. The northern swing always very much anticipated. This will mark a return to St. Clair. It's not been that long since we've been there, but St. Clair is just legendary for smallmouth fishing, a great place to have a fishing tournament.
Yeah, late July, it'll be a different, we've been there throughout history, as late as September, as early July, and so this will be kind of tucked right there in the middle. We'll kind of see what week it aligns with past history and see if those patterns align. But we've often said this, when we have come to Lake St. Clair, it was always who's going to go to Huron, who's going to go to Erie, and one of those people will win. That's not been the case recently. You have to be on St. Clair to win a lot of these tournaments recently. If you're in the St. Clair River, the Detroit River, that's still connected to St. Clair. You still have a shot to win. But St. Clair has been growing them big and producing them for the last couple years for sure. It's definitely a place that you can stay and never leave and be just fine.
Last Elite Series event there was in 2020. Of course, we had the year before that, 2019, the AOY Championship. Seth Fighter, I believe, won that one. So who went on the next year to win Angler of the Year, or 2 years later to be Angler of the Year.
Yeah, and we saw big schools of fish offshore. We have Canada in play. The last time we were there in 2020, the border was not open. It was just U.S. waters, so we will be able to explore Canada a little bit. For Bassmaster Live, maybe not so good because we lose some service as they get to the Canadian shoreline, but we have seen plenty of great action over the years. Some of those Bell River knobs and all of those different places out in the middle of the lake. You wonder, is there even a bass out here? Yes, there's giant schools of smallmouth. We'll see if that plays in late July.
Tapping into the legend and lore of St. Clair. That's July 27th through the 30th. And then we go to another popular spot, popular for so many years. Everyone points to a tournament on Champlain.
Yeah, we always seem to wrap up our season, or at least have a stretch of our season in the state of New York. We will end it with 2 events in New York, the first being Champlain. And man, Tommy, it used to go there and you'd be like, you have to fish for largemouth to win. Guys who made the run to Ticonderoga, it would always pay off. Most recently, we see you can win it with all smallmouth. Yes. We saw that with Brandon Pollock a few years ago. And then most recently, Brian Schmidt getting it done with a mix of both largemouth and smallmouth. But really, it's one of those places. You could go run 30, 40 miles north, 100 miles south, wherever you want to go. But if you stay close to Plattsburgh, you have a really good shot to win because of the, you've got the inland sea, you've got all of those areas, Missisquoi Bay, nothing too far for you right there to get it done.
Always have so many tremendous storylines at Lake Champlain. Again, that's going to be August 17th through 20th, going out of Plattsburgh, New York. And we wrap it up with this place that's just always gangbusters, smallmouth Disneyland is one way to put it. And we're going to the St. Lawrence River yet again and Lake Ontario. Can't wait for that.
And Clayton, New York being the host of that this year for 2023. 2023 and for this past season in 2022, we got to see fireworks. It was one of those things. We've been there so many times, seen it in so many different aspects. We've seen wind and weather affect game plans. We've seen where the takeoff is, you know, the strategy. Do you stay in the river? Do you run to the lake? With it being in Clayton, we can kind of resemble the record-breaking year we had. 102 pounds, 9 ounces for Jay Shakir, breaking and setting a century mark for smallmouth. Corey Johnston getting in on the 100-pound group as well. Maybe we get 4 perfect days of weather. If not, it'll still be a great St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario because we've seen it in all aspects. And it'll be interesting to see how it differs from this year in July to about the August time period next year to end the season.
That's the Northern Swing to wrap the season up again. The St. Lawrence, August 24th through the 17th, and there you are.
All dynamic places and all have the ability, time of year-wise, to really be good fishing tournaments.
The St. Lawrence River with the Angler of the Year and the classic spots on the line promises to be an outstanding ending to our 23 schedule. We can't wait to see who rises to the top and claims these titles. We're not done yet today, though. Stick with us after the break, and we'll break down the top anglers to watch for in our first 3 events of 2023. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series preview show. Almost time to kick off our 23 season here in a few weeks, and we're getting you set for all the upcoming action. Right now, time to break down some of the anglers to keep an eye on for the first third of our schedule. And Ronnie Moore, we've definitely got some guys on our radar who will be looking to a big finish when we kick off the season down in Florida this year.
Tommy, we're going to kick off our 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series season at Lake Okeechobee. If you don't know Lake Okeechobee, it's a legendary fishery in bass fishing history. I mean, it's been around since the beginning. It is a natural lake. Some of these lakes are formed, man-made with locks and dams. This is a natural bowl, gem of the South. Grass plentiful in a lot of these places. It's changed over the years with hurricanes, but it's one that's always going to have big bass somewhere around. And a guy who's fished there his entire life, Scott Martin, lives right there in Clewiston, Florida at the south end of the lake. Scott Martin's my one to watch early on in the season. He's had a little bit of trouble getting out to a good start in Florida, his home state, the last few years. I'd expect a good turnaround here to kick off the 2023 season. Another guy who honestly makes his living in the first few events of the season, Greg Hackney, one of the best anglers of all time, does so well in our first and second events of the season. Gets off on a hot start for our Angler of the Year race, and he does so because big bass live in Florida, and Greg Hackney is patient and knows how to pick apart certain areas that are high percentage, and that'll be key at Lake Okeechobee. A guy I'm also keeping on my radar, John Cox. It seems like he makes the most out of nothing. If you give him a breadcrumb, he'll make an entire sandwich out of it, Tommy. And John Cox, that's gonna be key for him at Lake Okeechobee. It could fish small. There could be certain confined areas where loads of fish are, and he's got to wait him out and be patient. I think that John has the temperament to do just that. And now let's go north of the border. Chris Johnston. These guys may fish clear water, they may fish smallmouth for most of the year. That may be the fun thing to do, but Chris and Corey Johnston both cut their teeth shallow grass largemouth fishing, and that's exactly what we'll see at Lake Okeechobee. Chris Johnston's had some good success in the state of Florida before, almost winning elite events, winning other tour events as well. I'd expect Chris Johnston to be on my short list as well. We're going to move a little bit north of there. We're going to get to the Florida-Georgia border as well as the Alabama border right there in the corner, Lake Seminole. It's a place we haven't been, I'd say, in roughly 10 years, Tommy. 2014 was the last time we were there, and it was the start of our season then. Cold in February. It'll be a little bit warmer this time of the year, hopefully in late February. Seminole has the chance to be very diverse, though, and so my field of anglers is going to be diverse as well. Drew Benton, one who lives just down the road there in the panhandle of Florida. He's fished Seminole basically all of his life. It's one of the best tournament fisheries in the world, and it's not far from his home. He's cut his teeth in that region, and I could see him sight fishing or throwing moving baits for success there at Seminole. Another guy, we've talked about it at the Classic, we've talked about it in the Angler of the Year race, Brandon Lester, coming on so strong at this point in his career. I could really see this being an in-between tournament. What I mean by that is there will be some fish on bed probably or in the process of spawning, but the moving bait bite will be prevalent. Speaking of moving and moving bait bite, Brian New, he's a guy who loves to cover a lot of water. He's never gonna stay in the same spot. He's gonna run around and keep his options open. That could be a very good thing at Lake Seminole when you have so many places to go, so many creeks to divide upon. He's gonna find where he suits best. Another guy who's really great at fishing offshore, but also grass bodies of water. If there is a pre-spawn or a place that these fish are staging up before they go and spawn, Buddy Gross is going to be one to look at. He's won in the state of Florida just last year in 2022 at the Harris Chain. He's also won in Alabama, so this neck of the woods is not foreign for Buddy Gross. I'd expect some good results from him there. Then when we make our move up to the third event of the season, about a month or two later, Lake Murray in South Carolina. This is a blueback herring lake, and that's a different kind of forage base than most everywhere else you see in the country. It makes these bass act a little bit differently, but one thing, in April, they're going to kind of be neutralized because the spawn will be right around the corner. So I'm going to have to go with a local, a guy who's been around Lake Murray his whole life. He lives a little bit west of there, but Brandon Cobb. Brandon Cobb has won big tournaments on Lake Murray in the summertime. He knows how those fish may be affected differently in the spring. Brandon Cobb's going to be on my short list at Lake Murray. Just his sheer knowledge of South Carolina this time of the year, that's going to go a long ways for a place we haven't been to in a long time. Hank Cherry, he's from the Carolinas as well, but North Carolina, he's fished, Lake Murray pretty considerably, especially in the wintertime. He'll know exactly how these fish will probably transition, some hot spots to go to, high percentage places to stay. Whether he chooses to be on the main lake or back in a creek, Hank Cherry will kind of have a couple options at his disposal. Then we kind of think about my third guy. I'm going to think about Cliff Perch, and that might not be a name that a lot of people know, but he is a great sight fisherman. He's from the state of Arizona, so no local bias here. A great sight fisherman, so in this clear water, if they are spawning and on bed, he's going to be one to watch for. But also, if it does get a little tough, maybe it's a little colder in April than we expect in South Carolina, finesse presentations may rule, and Clifford Perch will be on my short list for that as well. Now our last guy. If the spawn is a little bit closer, if there's a lot more fish on the bed, then maybe if it's cold, if it does warm up pretty well, Micah Frazier's one. He's made a lot of money at Lake Hartwell, just a couple hours to the west of Lake Murray, and it's going to set up a little bit similar to that. And I think that Micah Frazier is going to be a good one to have a good start in 2023.
Thank you, Ronnie. All that and more upcoming on the 2023 Bassmaster Elite Series, now just a few weeks away. We hope you'll join us and watch it all unfold as we work our way through the year. Big bass and big wins, two things we know are definitely headed our way in 23. Well, that's all for today on the Bassmaster Elite Series preview show. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.